The lorries were already on the motorway. The Chippendale furniture, 250 years old, commissioned specifically for the house, never separated from it in all that time, was loaded, labelled, and heading south toward Christie's auction house in London. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. Then they were stopped, turned around on the carriageway in Cumbria and sent back north. Prince Charles had personally brokered a deal in the final hours before the sale went through. He called it later, without any detachment, an appalling risk. He was right about that. And the full story of what that risk actually cost and who paid for it is something the palace has never fully answered. Dumfries House is not a royal residence. The king has never lived there and never intended to. It is a Palladian mansion in East Ayrshire, Scotland, built between 1754 and 1759 for William Dalrymple, the 5th Earl of Dumfries. The Adam brothers designed it, their first significant independent commission. The building costs came in within a few pennies of the original estimate of £7,979, 11 shillings and 2 pence. The principal rooms and their contents had remained essentially unchanged for 250 years. That was the point. Dumfries House was one of the last great houses in Britain where the original furniture had never been sold off, broken up, or moved abroad. The Chippendale pieces were made for those rooms. They belonged in those rooms. And in 2007, the 7th Marquess of Bute could no longer afford to keep them there. Before we get deeper into this, if you're into royal stories that actually go behind the headlines and look at what the documents say, hit subscribe. You're going to want to be here for the next one. The campaign to save the house had been running for 3 years. Historic Scotland declined to fund it. Various heritage bodies tried and fell short. By June of 2007, the situation was terminal. The removal lorries had been booked. The furniture had been packed. Charles heard about the campaign from a writer named James Knox, who made what was described as an impassioned impromptu speech at one of the Prince's conservation conferences at the Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh. Charles moved fast. He pulled together a consortium of heritage charities and approached the Scottish government, which contributed £5 million. The total needed was £45 million. The efforts fell short. The Prince's charitable foundation stepped in to plug the gap. It borrowed £20 million. That $20 million came from a charity, or rather from an umbrella body sitting above 20 separate charities, each delivering services across education, traditional crafts, and sustainable living. The loan was secured on 68 acres of adjacent farmland bought by the foundation at a cut price of £268,000. The plan was to develop that land into an eco-village, sell the homes, repay the loan, and fund the restoration of the house at the same time. Charles announced the deal on the 27th of June, 2007. The lorries were stopped on the motorway that night. He told ITV 5 years later exactly how close it had been. The furnishings were all in packing cases, labels on, everything loaded. We stopped them. The lorries were stopped at 1 o'clock in the morning in Cumbria on the way to Christie's and turned around and came back. Then came the 2008 financial crash. The land at Knockroon, that was the name of the development, styled after Charles's model village at Poundbury in Dorset, had been valued at £15 million once planning permission came through. By 2009, after the crash, it was worth barely £9 million. The foundation's loan was suddenly in negative equity. Charles told ITV he woke up in the middle of the night thinking help. The eco-village plan was ambitious. 770 homes combining traditional architecture with 21st century sustainability intended to regenerate a former mining community. The first homes went on sale in 2011. A 4-bedroom house was priced at £220,000. A 3-bedroom property in nearby Cumnock was on the market for £39,950. Buyers did not queue. By 2015, the developer Hope Homes had withdrawn entirely, described in reporting as frustrated by the lack of progress. A leading Scottish architect called the vision an imported pastiche. Expensive homes dropped into a rural setting that could not support them. Final count across all the years, 31 homes built out of 770 planned. The value of the site had been written down from £15 million to £700,000, a loss of more than 95%. This is the point where another name enters the story: Lord Brownlow. Before he became a peer, David Brownlow was a venture capitalist with long-standing ties to Charles and his charitable network. He founded the Havisham Group, a private investment vehicle. Between 2012 and 2017, Havisham Properties bought 11 homes at Knockroon for a total of £1.7 million, converting them to buy-to-lets and a cafe. He effectively bailed out the development that was supposed to repay the foundation's debt. In 2013, months after Havisham started buying the properties, Charles appointed Brownlow as a trustee of the Prince's Foundation, the charity that manages Dumfries House. That same year, Brownlow hosted his 50th birthday party at the estate, with performances by Dynamo the Magician, Alfie Boe, and Cirque du Soleil fire dancers. Whether he was charged the commercial rate for the use of the venue has never been publicly confirmed. It is the kind of question that, at another institution, a board of trustees would have insisted on answering in the minutes. There is no public record that it was asked. In 2015, Brownlow's company received £1.2 million in contracts to build staff cottages on the Dumfries House estate. He was subsequently awarded a life peerage, Baron Brownlow of Sherlock Row, in the 2020 Boris Johnson Honours List. That same list was the one scrutinised for the flat refurbishment controversy, where Brownlow had also helped fund the redecoration of the Prime Minister's official Downing Street apartment. 2 separate properties, 2 separate controversies. The same name on both sets of documents. The Scottish charity regulator confirmed that the Knockroon property transactions, the purchases by Havisham, the related contracts, the trustee appointment, form part of its broader investigation into the Foundation's affairs. The central problem was procedural and serious. The Foundation had not declared Havisham's purchases as related party transactions. Under standard charity governance, when a trustee's connected company does business with the charity that trustee governs, that relationship must be disclosed and managed transparently. The rules exist because, without them, a trustee can sit on both sides of a deal simultaneously. There is no allegation that Brownlow personally profited improperly. The allegation is that the process that should have prevented even the appearance of that was not followed. It is also worth noting what Brownlow's intervention actually achieved. Without Havisham buying those 11 properties, and without the staff cottage contracts, the Knockroon development would have collapsed even further and faster than it did. In a narrow financial sense, his involvement helped stabilise a situation that was deteriorating rapidly. The question that the regulators were asking was not whether the outcome was helpful. It was whether the way it was arranged met the standards that charitable governance requires. That distinction matters, and it is the one Clarence House has leaned on in response to every inquiry. Now, here is where Clarence House has always maintained a firm line. Charles knew nothing about the honours. He was not party to any arrangement linking donations to titles or citizenship. That position has never changed, and it is worth stating clearly because what happened next involved his closest aide acting, at least according to Charles's account, entirely without his knowledge. Michael Fawcett had been at Charles's side for 40 years. He started as a junior footman to the Queen in 1981, became Charles's personal valet, and rose through the decades to become chief executive of the Prince's Foundation in 2018. The salary was £95,000 a year. Charles once described him as indispensable. That word would come to carry significant weight. In 2021, a letter emerged. It had been written in 2017 on headed notepaper from the Dumfries House Trust by Fawcett in his capacity as chief executive. The letter was addressed to associates of a Saudi businessman named Mahfouz Murray Mubarak bin Mahfouz, who had donated £1.5 million to restoration projects of particular interest to Charles. In the letter, Fawcett allegedly wrote that he was willing to make an application to change Mahfouz's existing honorary CBE to a higher honour, a KBE, an honorary knighthood, and to support his application for British citizenship. The applications, the letter said, would be made in response to the most recent and anticipated support of the charity. Mahfouz had received his CBE at a private ceremony in 2016. That ceremony was not listed on the official schedule of royal engagements. The Sunday Times, the Daily Mail, and the Mail on Sunday all reported the allegations. Fawcett temporarily stepped down from the foundation in September 2021. A spokesperson for the foundation said at the time that it took the allegations seriously and had commissioned an independent investigation. Charles, through Clarence House, said he had no knowledge of any offer of honours in exchange for donations and fully supported the inquiry. The independent investigation's findings, when they came, were specific. It found evidence of Fawcett's communications and coordination with, in its own words, so-called fixers, regarding honorary nominations for a donor between 2014 and 2018. 4 years of coordination, not a single rogue letter. A pattern. Fawcett, the report said, fully supported the ongoing investigation. He resigned as chief executive in November 2021. Clarence House announced it had severed all ties with him and with his events company, Premier Mode. A friend told the Daily Mail the accusations had destroyed him. He had lost 5 stone in weight and was a shadow of his former self. A replacement chief executive was appointed, Emily Cherrington, a former palace aide described as a safe pair of hands. Within months, she was herself the subject of reporting. The Mail on Sunday alleged she had been present when a separate 6-figure cash donation arrived from the former Prime Minister of Qatar, Sheikh Hamad bin Jassim Al Thani, delivered physically in bags. The foundation did not deny that a donation had been made. The question of how it arrived and how it was processed became part of a widening picture of how this particular charity had been operating for years. The Metropolitan Police opened a criminal investigation in February 2022 under the Honours Prevention of Abuses Act of 1925. That act was passed after the Lloyd George government's systematic sale of peerages in the 1920s. It makes it a criminal offence to accept money in exchange for the exercise of influence in the award of an honour. The investigation was the first of its kind involving the royal household in modern times. Charles denied any knowledge. Harry separately told reporters that he had expressed concerns about Mahfouz as far back as 2015. The palace severed all ties with Fawcett and with his events company in November 2021. Fawcett resigned as chief executive. According to a friend quoted in the Daily Mail, the accusations had a devastating effect. He had lost 5 stone in weight and was, in that friend's words, a shadow of his former self. And here is the detail that almost nobody has covered properly. The CBE that Mahfouz received in 2016 was awarded privately, not on the public schedule, not in the standard honours list. At a private audience, outside the system that exists specifically so that honours can be publicly scrutinised. If it had gone through the standard route, journalists, civil servants and other scrutineers would have seen the name. The private route made it invisible, until the letter made it visible. The Foundation's loan has since been repaid in full. Dumfries House is open to the public. The Chippendale furniture is still in the rooms it was made for. Charles became king on the 8th of September 2022. He was at Dumfries House that day, attending the estate, when word came through that his mother had fallen gravely ill at Balmoral. He was helicoptered north. She died that afternoon. The questions that remain unanswered are structural ones. The Knockroon transactions were never declared as related party dealings. The Brownlow trustee appointment followed the bailout. The Brownlow peerage followed the contracts. The Mahfouz CBE came privately. Whether any of this formed a deliberate pattern or a series of separately defensible decisions made by individuals acting on their own judgment, that is exactly what the investigations were designed to determine, and neither inquiry produced a prosecution. What is certain is this: Charles saved a 250-year-old house by taking a risk he freely admitted could have destroyed him. The house survived. The eco-village did not. The attempt to make the numbers work without that failure becoming public led, over 14 years, to a trail of relationships, contracts, donations and honours that Scotland Yard eventually had to look at. The lorries turned around on the motorway at 1 in the morning. What came after them took considerably longer to unravel. If you found this story worth your time, hit subscribe. There are more of these. And the next one is just as buried. Thanks for watching.